Good evening and welcome to the one, the only Hog Talk podcast, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios, part of the Believe and Buzz Radio Networks on 106.7 Buzz 2 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I am Porter Hayes. Alongside me, as always, is Adam Hall, and we're also brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device today to sign up and get in on the action. Remember to use the promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts, and we will start there with the news of the day, of course. And reports came out that last night that Hunter Yurachek informed the team and Sam Pittman that he will return for the 2024 season. Adam, talk about, your initial thoughts when, of course, people were waking up and seeing this news after last night's game. What was your initial thoughts of seeing that Pittman indeed would be back next year?
I looked at it as, it was something that the players and the coaching staff no longer have to worry about. They know what's going to happen. There were different scenarios that I think everybody were playing out on when and if something were to happen. But I guess we would have liked the news sooner, obviously, but it's better than going on another week or even longer with just the sitting and wondering game. So, now we can put it to rest.
And it is a catch-22 because, say like last night, put the news out and then say Missouri comes and just blows out Arkansas next week. Now you're in the same boat as you was last week after the Auburn game. Or opposed to, they announce it, it gives them motivation to beat Missouri. Right now, you're playing with house money on getting these wins at the end of the season, right? No bowl game, or if there's not enough people eligible, you go 5-7, you could get selected for a bowl game. There's just that many bowl games out there. So there still is that possibility. I don't know what kind of percentage or chance there is for Arkansas to make a bowl game, but there is a chance. It's like on a Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's still a chance that if Arkansas beats Missouri next week, ends the season 5-7, Arkansas could get selected to a bowl game. Also, this is KJ's potentially, unless he decides to come back, his last game in Razorback Stadium against Missouri, and a game that I'm sure that he wants to go out on with a win. So, that's just those things coming out, knowing that you're head coached, uncertainty, of course, with the recruits and stuff. But, yeah, I think it was the right move. It's just we'll have to see moving forward on what happens next season.
Yeah, because, with this, there's still questions. What did they do in the offensive coordinator position? Do any of the coaching staff leave? Who stays? And then, I think it looks at too, going ahead and getting this out there that he is staying. Any guys that may have been on the fence with the portal, it's very possible that Sam Pittman staying is what keeps them here. Or it could still send people away. You never know how that's going to play out or what's in a player's head.
Yeah, and a lot of, and I want to, point out the crowd last night. I know it wasn't as much as what they announced, but they filed in after the game started really quickly. It was like 20 minutes till game time. And I'm like, here we go. It just was empty. We were up in the upper deck on the west side, and it was looking kind of empty. But then where we were at, there was a lot of people around. We looked across the way. I couldn't see up underneath, and it looked like there was a lot more people on the west side than there was on the east side when it came to the lower section. So, if that tells you, one, the fans still showed up. Two, from what I seen live, it didn't seem like any of the players were playing down. There was no just lifeless emotion. There was, it was a lot of things, when, especially like when I think it was Walcott when he stripped the ball, and ran in the end zone. There was still a lot of emotion. There was still a lot of pride. And the two guys, I can't remember the names that was in the press conference this week, said we're playing for pride. They came out and played. And it was a good atmosphere for what I was expecting. we tailgated down at Baum Stadium and there was hardly anybody. But when we got back to our vehicle, that whole parking lot was full.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do want to give kudos to the crowd. They showed up. Again, I know it wasn't, I think they say 60 something thousand.
It's like 66, 442 or 420, something like that.
There wasn't that many, but it wasn't like a Western Carolina deal. It wasn't like that.
Yeah, watching from at home on TV and everything, they, you saw the crowd at the beginning of the game. Of course, they always show like several minutes before kickoff and whatnot when they get their camera pans. And so it was kind of, you weren't sure. They made a comment at one point that it was hunting season. So maybe the fans were out, doing that. And I'm like, okay, we're, whatever. But, going to the players on the field, definitely looked like they had more life. I will say that even after, I think it was after the first touchdown, Arkansas's first score, they showed the guys that, offense sitting on the bench. And I mean, they didn't look too enthused.
Yeah.
So, and that could have been a number of things, but what we saw on the sideline versus what we saw on the field were two completely different things.
And that could have been because of the uncertainty. Hey, look, is this the last game that coach is going to be coaching? Is this, they didn't know. So, I mean, you got a lot of anxiousness, and the pressure of, look, they know if their back's against the wall, and this is a game that, hey, if this is a close game or we lose, we might not have our coach. And we don't know what the players, insight is. If the players want Pittman or not, we can only see by their actions, and I know probably a lot of them. I mean, the way they looked against FIU, and I know it's hard to gauge with the opponent. But with that being said, they still come out and play. So now, I mean, we'll get a better look next week when they play Missouri. This is a game where the two teams hate each other. As much as anybody wants to say it's not a rivalry, it's a rivalry. This is where you want to talk about pride and you want to talk about winning the game. Knock them out and really put them out on a 2-game skid with or losing against Arkansas.
Yeah, I looked at, I watched a little bit of the highlights from the Missouri game, and going into this week, I don't feel Missouri's going to come ready to play. I think they overlooked Florida a little bit yesterday, and even if with Arkansas season that's going the way it's going, I mean, Missouri doesn't like Arkansas. I think they don't like Arkansas a little bit more than Arkansas fans would like to believe, but I think Missouri is going to be ready to show up and show out. And, one thing that I do hope that doesn't happen, because we know that Missouri's put out there, they want to stripe out Razorback Stadium in black and gold just because of all the tickets and stuff. I mean, it's one of those things that even if we're having, even if we weren't, 4-7, if we were 2-9 at this point or whatever it may be, it's one of those things that it's still, you don't want to see an imposing team come into your home field and do that.
Yeah, and I think that was more of let's kick a dog while it's down. I mean, that's what it was. And Andrew McAdams says, do you think A&M and Mississippi State having job openings have anything to do with Sam State? I don't think so, because they haven't hired anybody yet. This is, they don't. There's people interviewing for all those positions. I don't know. I think. And again, I'll say the opponent, yes, was a lackluster opponent, but I really think that Hunter took in account of, okay, you just got your bell rung by Auburn, who, in fact, last night got beat, by New Mexico State, I believe it was.
Yeah.
New Mexico or New Mexico State. I always get them two mixed up, but he's seen how they played, and, of course, going out on a win, I think he's like, okay, Sam deserves another year. And whether y'all want to like it or not, I'm sure, we've gauged it all day today. We've seen where you're at. You're entitled to your opinion. And honestly, where I'm at right now, you're whether you want him or want him gone, you're not wrong, because I could see both arguments on both sides of it. But I trust Honey Urchek. He's not made a bad move yet. And until proven otherwise, I've got to trust that he believes in Sam being his guy and knows what is going on within this program and is basically giving Sam the chance to, turn this thing around.
Yeah, and with two West, division coaches or coaching spots being open, I look at A&M and, that's with what they pay and the amount of attention that they get, that's on the national scale. Whereas I think we'd be competing honestly more with Mississippi State when it came to who the pick of the litter would be. So, anytime that A&M job comes up, I mean, they're going to be, and especially when they're paying 9, 10, 11 million, whatever that number comes out to be, they're going to be in the talk from the national standpoint. So if they're one of the two jobs that get opened up, I don't look at them like nobody's going to really compete with the amount that they're going to pay.
Yeah. And moving to the game, I mean, you start out, all right, good drive. And then when they took the lead, it was just, I think you got the clip pulled up. When they hit that crossing pattern and ran it in for a touchdown, you at that moment, you just heard gasps. You heard just like, here we go again. And this is where I'll say, watching the play right now, Hudson Clark comes in front of the guy instead of behind him. It's a whole different ball game. I know number one right there, he got beat, but that's where the safety comes in on that crossing route. But they had a chance to, I mean, they were ahead and Arkansas come back. I mean, they started really running the ball. Gustave, yeah. Augustive, yeah. I mean, you talking about getting your moment and making the best. I mean, he come out and was running. They had really no answer for him when it come to the run game. I mean, he just a bell cow for it. And then Dominique Johnson, holy moly. I mean, just that one run that really kind of really opened it wide open when they handed the ball off and he just went right up the middle and nobody touched him. I mean, you could tell, and that we had talked about this a few weeks ago when we were talking about going under center and having a guy like KJ and not mixing things up.
Mm-hmm.
When Enos was here, you knew KJ was getting that ball. Well, they keyed on KJ fully. And when he handed the ball off, you could tell. I mean, he didn't get touched. Wide open to the end zone. And really that's what really got the crowd really going and into it. And then it just went down here for FIU from there. But, and then, Cam Little missing a couple of field goals. And you could tell it was an uneasy vibe, as much as they wanted to be hyped up. And it's almost like you want to play up and you want to be excited, but about the elephant in the room. And I really think with them making that decision to stick with him, you're going to see a different team. I don't know about the outcome, but you're going to see a different team, more relaxed team coming out next Friday or next Saturday against Missouri.
Yeah, last night was one of the, I mean, honestly, let's be real, first games that we've had this season that, our running backs were running through people, running through tackles. They weren't just getting tripped up. They were running with a purpose. Augustave is the one I've been wanting to see all year, but, I get wanting to keep his red shirt intact. So, I fully believe that we'll see plenty of him against Missouri. So he is all that he's been hyped up to be, and it was good to see him on the field last night. But there was more holes created. And yeah, the running backs were just, like I said, running with a purpose. They weren't just going down, first chance they got touched, like it's been the case so far. But also, which again, I know we're going back to the level of competition, but we, not having the defensive line a yard or two in your backfield when you get the ball helps out quite a bit too.
Yeah. And you go back to the first of the season when you've seen the team struggling to run the ball against Kent State, struggling to run the ball against Western Carolina, for them to really pound the ball the way that they were supposed to on a team like this, That's what's refreshing. I know you could sit there and say, well, that's what they're supposed to against FIU. Well, you go back to Kent State, Western Carolina, they didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to fully rely on KJ to do everything last night. That was the one big shining positive out of last night is you had guys that stepped up, and Dominic Johnson, Estave, Augusta, who took over the game, and you had another 100-yard rusher. You had a team in Florida International coming in with, they were upset minded. I know it's hard to say on a 3-win team, but that's what they were wanting to do. You talking about kicking a dog while it's down? Well, they smelt blood in the water, and they wanted to come in up Arkansas. And I know one thing. I mean, that could have been a whole different conversation that we're having today if they would have pulled out the win.
Yeah, like watching yesterday, we started off like we have in several games. We come out pretty hot on the first drive. We scored, there's a lot of hype, and then it's just kind of like the letdown begins. FIU goes down, they score, and it was one of those that you could almost just see it like, here we are again. But kudos to Arkansas for clawing back out after they got down. I think scoring, at first like 24 unanswered in one of the quarter, So that was the one thing that was like, all right, they're back in this. Their mind's right. It was just that little kind of scary moment at the beginning that you're like, here we go.
Yeah. And you could feel it. You could sense it in the stands. Mm-hmm. But once, I think we left with like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It was, you could see, everybody was leaving as we were leaving, but because the game was in hand and it was, Arkansas was pulling away. But I'm really anxious to see how this transitions with everything that's happened today, the game last night. I'm really anxious to see what type of team shows up next week. Because of all teams, look, if you think for 1 second Missouri's coming into this game overlooking Arkansas, no, they want to beat Arkansas just as much as Arkansas wants to beat them. They want to hang 40 on Arkansas just as much as Arkansas wants to hang 40 on them. I mean, this is going to be one of them things. If it gets out of hand, there's going to be no mercy. I want it to be a good game. I want Arkansas to come out and pull off the upset, and bring that trophy back to Arkansas, because look, Missouri's had our number. You don't have too many wins in this rivalry. So for them to come in and think that, they're down, Arkansas is going to have to play their best game to win this game. They are, because Missouri's a really good team. But look what Florida hung with them in Missouri. I know Missouri could have been looking ahead, but that's all the motivation Arkansas needs. They're going to need some breaks. They're going to need some turnovers. But if you can do 3 things, you can stop trying to turn your field goals. You finish your drives, capitalize on your drives, and score touchdowns. Don't turn the ball over, and you cause turnovers. You could win this game on Saturday.
Yeah, I think even all the I don't want to use the word negative, but the thoughts that people have about Coach Drinkwitz at Mizzou. Say what you want about him, but he gets his team ready, especially when they're playing Arkansas, whether it's in Columbia, whether it's in Fayetteville. I think it means a little bit more to him to come back to Arkansas and be able to put it on. He's going to have his team ready. He's done it ever since he's taken over there. So that's one thing, I'm ready for a dogfight. You hope that it doesn't turn into, an out-and-out Mizzou blowout. But like you said, creating turnovers is big. And Arkansas not giving up turnovers also, because I think last night they showed Arkansas leads the nation in defensive touchdowns. And so, it's one of those things that you see that, and then you look at the record or whatever, and it just almost kind of like just gives you a uneasy feeling, because it's like, here you are at this great stat and number 1 in the nation in defensive touchdowns, and then you're sitting at 4-7.
Yeah, and that goes to look at what they've done on the defensive side of the ball and switching things around. You can look at what Bryles has done at TCU. You can look at what Odom's done at UNLV. And you're looking at a different scenario when you're talking about him because he's a head coach now. He's not the defensive coordinator. He's over the whole program. That is another question that will be answered, and I just want to ask you first. We're talking around, we're talking about shopping around and who we going to get for the offensive coordinator. Do you think with what the performance last night? Yes, again, it was FIU. Where does Kenny Guyton stand on getting that promotion, or is his final audition coming up next week to see how he game plans against a team that really wants to, and no offense, embarrass you?
Yeah. I still think he's in that audition interview process. The first game coming out and putting up, what was it, 500 yards. That was huge. But then, we've still seen those sputters in the offense. We've still seen some issues. And so I'm not 100% that you don't go try to find somebody else. And that's not, I'm not trying to take away anything from Coach Guyton. I just, from the looks of, okay, Pittman's going to be retained. He is going to have to look within and see what changes are now going to have to be made, since his job for the time being is safe, whether it's a different offensive coordinator. But then you don't know who that offensive coordinator, who he's going to retain or who he's going to bring in. So that's a big thing. We've all had our opinions, when it comes to Cody Kennedy and the offensive line. But then I look at Coach Morgan that came in, this season. He's had his 1 year at tight ends coach, and he was the number one. I mean, he was the top tight ends coach in the country. At Stanford, that's what he did, was put tight ends into the NFL. So that's one of those things that's whoever you bring in, you have to realize that, there's the chance that he's going to bring in his own people.
Yeah, and you got to show that guy some grace when it comes to position. When you lose your top two tight ends to the same kind of injury, I mean, I don't think anybody should be calling for his job unless it just, like you said, the new OC comes in and he wants his own people to come in and run his style. But I mean, to have Has get hurt like that, I mean, and Washington get hurt the same kind of way, I mean, you got to show him some grace. But the whole offensive line thing, that is what is, I guess, the most concerning thing for me is talking about next year. Is it's hard just to go to the portal and bring in 3 or 4 new offensive linemen to your team and make it work. That's hard to develop. That's hard to just because they're 6'7", 300 pounds or whatever, that they're just going to automatically come in and be beasts for you on the offensive line. This team just going to need a lot, and you're losing a lot next year. You're losing a lot on both sides of the ball. So maybe that, kind of was another thing of, look, if you really want this job next year, we're giving you a hard schedule and we're going to be coming back with a totally different team. Do you want to keep Guyton as your OC or bring somebody in? But again, when we're talking about bringing somebody else in with, yes, Pittman's coming back next year, but that is always going to be looming over somebody's head. Could this be a 1-year position that I'm coming into? Or do we not just go ahead and give Guyton that OC tag for next year? And because, again, what happened, I don't know what the kind of buyout structure is for the OCs or whatever, if there is any at all. I don't know.
There's some, because I think
Bryles get a buyout?
No, because he left on his own.
Okay.
Now Eno's got almost $2 million.
That's right.
Yeah. So
you're thinking, I mean, but that's another thing you have to think of, is if you bring somebody in and you're basically giving Pittman 1 more year, to get the job done, or you want to deal with 1 buyout or 2 buyout. I mean, it's there's going to be a lot of discussion between now and the end of the season. What we're going to do, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we are going to talk about the Missouri game next week. We're going to talk about a little Thanksgiving stuff. We'll wrap it up with the basketball losing their game and what your thoughts are on the basketball team. I mean, no, we're right there in the midst of the changeover between football and basketball. So we'll cover all that when we come back from break. Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials ensure to have everything you need. Whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck, most of our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Mentor's Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today and let's build something amazing together. Are you in need of legal representation? Look no further than the law offices of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson. As the oldest law firm in the River Valley, we have been serving our clients for over 100 years, with locations in Ozark, Fort Smith, and Spring. Our experienced team of attorneys provide expert guidance and advocacy in a wide range of legal areas, including personal injury, family law, criminal defense, and more. Trust in our history and experience to get the results you deserve. Contact the law office of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson today at 479-782-8813. That's 479-782-8813. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company. Located at 201 South 1st Street in beautiful downtown Ozark, our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company. And welcome back to the Talk Podcast. And moving on to the Missouri game, Adam, what needs to, when this carryover, what's the biggest thing that when you're watching Missouri play, when you watch them play against Florida and other games this season, what is going to be the biggest thing that Arkansas is really going to have to key in when they are trying to slow down this offense?
One thing that Missouri's done this season from what I've seen, and it's kind of like things that they've done in the past, is they've always seemed to their quarterback makes the right throws at the right time, no matter who it's been. There's some, even against Florida last night, I think it was like 4th and 17 towards the end of the game. Yes. And it's just, to have the poise to, make that throw at with, I don't remember, 30 seconds left, 31 seconds left, something like that. That was huge for them, obviously, but they're running backs too. That might be a game that they're just kind of ho-humming along. They don't necessarily put up the stats. And then, there's other games that they're making the big runs at the right time, whether it's, just for first downs, touchdowns, whatever it may be. I've noticed that they pick up good blocks for their quarterback, which is huge and something, the Arkansas's had issues with doing themselves. So they've got some guys that can make plays. And I know there was questions, about quarterback at the beginning of the year, but he has definitely solidified his spot. I mean, obviously this far into the season, but for them to be ranked, which now I know they dropped one spot to 10th after last night's game, but to have them as a top 10 team, I mean, they've gone above and beyond, I think, preseason predictions.
Yes. Oh yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, they weren't picked to be this good in the East. I mean, it just shows you, but this is a team that's also out of the East been to 2 SEC, back-to-back SEC championship games. They know how to get there. And the thing is, they're doing it with just the same kind of talent that Arkansas has. You don't have, I mean, you got a running back that is, I mean, you want to talk about somebody who is a bell cow. That dude can just
Mhm.
flat out run the ball. That's going to be the biggest key. You stop him and make them one dimensional, you're going to have a shot at pulling off the upset. But just how balanced this team is, very very balanced team. I think you're going to have a very tough time winning the game. I
Mhm.
think I think when you talk about the pride, the pride of this game, you can't let them come in and beat you by 30. You can't let them just come in and, well, it's almost like when we're talking about Pittman's coming back. Okay, well, we know Pittman's already safe. He's not going anywhere. We're just gonna, okay, let's just move on next year. You still got to come out and play this game. And Cody Schrader had, yesterday had 148 yards rushing and a touchdown. Cook was 20 for 34 for 331 yards passing. So
Mhm.
you got a guy rushing for 150 almost, and then a quarterback passing for 331. That is very, very dangerous when it comes to, and I think Luther Burden's the one that caught that pass there at the end, because they were talking about him being that guy that everybody on the
Mhm.
field they knew that was going to, and he still found a way to catch the ball. So it's not going to be an easy task. I mean, of course, you're playing the number 10, number 9, whatever poll you're looking at. You're still playing a top 10 team to finish out the season. So you're going to have to play your best game. You're going to have to play a dang near perfect game to pull this off, and hope for some turnovers on the way. But I want them to go in, like I said, with the sense of pride and really go out with a bang, whether win or lose, at least come out and compete in this one.
Yeah, I mean, looking at their team, Burden's got 1,100 yards, Schrader's got 1,100 yards receiving, Schrader's got 1,200 yards rushing. So that's definitely something that it's going to be hard, honestly. I mean, for to single out one, whether it's the run or it's pass, you're going to have to figure out, defensively, especially in the secondary, how are you going to stop Burden?
Yeah.
Because even we talked about the level of competition with the FIU and seeing what Mitchell did last night, and him coming into that game with 700 something yard, 800 yards, but he was the guy when it came to receivers for FIU. And I know Rod Gilmore even mentioned last night that he had Mitchell for FIU on his Bolitnikoff um, watch list. So now you're getting into with Burden, you've got a bigger, stronger, potentially more talented wide receiver. What are you going to do to stop him? Because you can't, honestly, I don't think you can go score for score. You can't play that game.
Yeah. And you look at that one play. I mean, you talk about the receiver. I mean, you take out that one busted play.
Mm.
I mean, that really is what turned this game from 40 to 20, 44 to 20 to a 44-14, 44-10 game. It was just a wrong read, but we have to really know. And now, retrospect of going against Missouri, that one play like that can turn it into a lopsided score where Missouri could be 44 and you could be 20. You've really got to, this is where you're going to have to be disciplined. You're going to have to play a full 4-quarter game and really play lights out, because with how balanced this team is, you don't know what's coming. You don't, I mean, dude throwing for over 300 yards and a guy rushing for almost 150. It's just the thing that your last glimmer of hope of being coming bowl eligible
Mhm.
could come against the worst team now. But at the end of the beginning of the season, we could see this as, and I even guaranteed that KJ would win this game because I didn't see him going out losing to Missouri. So I mean, I'm probably going to be eating a lot of crow at the end of the season and really have to,
No.
am I going to be the one that's changing next year? Because I mean, it's been a crazy year this year.
It really has. I mean, us with our 9-3s, 8-4s, we saw some of the 10-2s and 11-1. I mean, there's nobody knows how the seasons are going to play out, and we just all have to accept what our predictions were and deal with it. And like you said, eat the crow and move on. But I think I had this game as one of those that could go either way, but I think I circled it as Mizzou winning, and I think a lot of that is just because of how it's been so far in this series. You just hope that whether this is KJ's last game or not, even if it's not, he wants to get the monkey off his back, if you will, when it comes to beating Mizzou.
Mhm.
He wants to be able to go out in this season on a high note, and for it to not it's not going to rectify what's happened this season by any means, but it'll at least leave a little bit better taste in your mouth.
The question is that he's probably going to be pondering what, especially you look at all the records he's done broken. He's at the top of every major category when it comes to a quarterback at the University of Arkansas. Is that enough for him? Is that, as I'm going out, there's looking at next year's schedule, looking at next year's team and the uphill battle that he has, what left do I have to prove? Are we going to win? Am I knowing that I'm going to come in the next season, we're going to win 8-9 games and have a really good bowl game? Or am I really going to come in and we're going to win 8-9 games and I'm going to up my draft stock? That's where I'm leaning to, where he could come back using those same arguments. I'm at the top of every statistical category at the University of Arkansas. They're not going to be a better team than they are this year. We've got too much coming back. We've got too many people leaving. We're not going to get to that 8-9 win season. I'm not going to have a chance to up my draft stock. Have I done enough at Arkansas? And he decides to either transfer or try his name in the NFL draft. I mean, that's really what he's going to be asking himself over the next couple of weeks. That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
But you also know that, with Criswell, you see him, how he can zip the ball. You can see how he can run with him being developed. I mean, it's not like this is gloom and doom. I mean, the potential he could have. He could be just like KJ, under KJ coming up through the ranks with the development. But that also has to do with OC and how are we going to handle this new regime of, we could have a new quarterback next year, new OC. What are we going to be doing? I mean, there's a lot that I think in Sam Pittman's tenure at Arkansas, this is going to be the most questions he's going to have when it comes to what's going to happen next season. Is KJ coming back? Are you going to have Jacoby? What's your offensive line going to be like? Is Kennedy coming back? Who's going to be your OC? And I know that's a hard thing to say with losing your OC and your defensive coordinator this past season. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of shoes. There's a lot of things that's going to have to be changed next season. And we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, KJ really has to, I guess, look within himself and see what he wants to do. Because like you said, he's, at the top of every statistical or major statistical quarterback record at Arkansas. He's been on that cusp of being drafted and not being drafted with his draft stock. And the combine could make or break that. But going to the combine, obviously, that would be him. I mean, he wouldn't be able to come back. But we've seen the combine completely boost somebody's draft stock, but we've also seen it completely tear down people's draft stock. And if you're already on the fence, on the cusp of not being drafted, and you go in and you don't have that great of combine, maybe you don't run a 4.4 or that 4.6, 4.7 40 for a quarterback. Maybe they look at it like, okay, you're 6'3", 250 pounds, and not as fast as we thought. I mean, there's a lot of questions that surround it. So, I know he's going to be getting as much feedback as possible from coaches around him and then others out there that critique and grade these prospects.
Yeah, and the biggest thing he's going to have to answer is, it seems like every coordinator he's had, they've had to come down on the playbook. You look at Sam Pittman this year, we're going to, do away with 30% of the playbook. Kendall Briles, it was a one read system. I mean, you see all them things that were catered to KJ when it comes to the next level. You could be a great college quarterback and not necessarily transition to an NFL quarterback. It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just look at all the number one draft picks who've went to the NFL and they've ended up being a bust. Or look at, the Heisman Trophy winner quarterbacks who've ended up going to the NFL and just not working out. It's a different ball game. You're looking at different kind of reads. You're looking at more talented defensive. You're looking at, you're playing an average in the SEC, maybe one All-American on the defensive side of the ball, opposed to when you go to the NFL, you're playing against a bunch of All-Americans. The speed and the physicality and the reads is a lot different. You're dealing with NFL defensive coordinators that, their jobs are on the line every single week, much less at the end of the year, So that being said, what Chris was pointing to was a lot of it depends on the NIL KJ is getting now, where he could go. Is somebody going to throw him a bag? Is he going to get a bag here at Arkansas? That has, can he make more here now coming back opposed to trying to go to the draft? That's another one of those aspects that come into the equation. And there's a lot of people who think he is an NFL quarterback, and there's a lot of people who don't think he's an NFL quarterback. So if in his heart and mind he wants to go to try the draft, but he sees that college is, about going to be the stopping point of him being a college quarterback or a quarterback, he might want more money. You never know. We don't know what's going to happen, but I would love for him to be able to come back and with everything that's happened this year, I said it a couple weeks ago with him and Rocket being able to come back and do a do-over, just to be able to get bowl eligible, get to a bowl game, beat Missouri, beat some of these teams, beat A&M, and go out and be able to ride off in the sunset on a positive note, opposed to what's happened this year.
Yeah, he'll definitely have a lot of questions to answer for himself. Between now, I don't even know what the date is for when they have to be officially entered for the combine, but we expect it would probably be early first of the year that we would have an answer from him. So it's going to be a wait game. There's going to be a lot of speculation, but ultimately, whatever he decides is what he thinks is in his best interest.
Yeah. And we'll wrap up on, we'll move to the Razorback basketball team falling to UNC Greensboro 78-72 on Friday night, Bud Walton Arena. Man, I mean, that game it was never a game for Arkansas. I mean, you think about looking ahead to the Bahamas, and you're thinking about, who you're about to face and then Duke after that. Letting a team like UNC Greensboro take a 14-point halftime lead on you and, 4 for 23 shooting on 3-point range. I mean, just everything. And I'll say this about Musselman, and he was getting a lot of praise by how open he was about his team. And we've seen this in previous games, giving his team an F grade. This team was an F. You're not closing out. You're not doing this. I mean, this is what happens when you bring in a lot of superstars and you try to get things to gel. I mean, they've got a lot of leadership. They've got a lot of people who can score, but you got to be able to find the hot hand and rely on that person. And letting a team like UNC Greensboro come in at home and beat you 78-72. I know it's early in the year, but that loss still stings.
It does, and you just hope that was that one non-conference loss that they got out of their system and then go on a run. It was ugly from the start. They couldn't hit, anything. I think up until the last few minutes, they had only hit 1-3, and that was early on in the first half, like first couple minutes of the game. So it was tough to watch. I do applaud them for, fighting back and getting within single digits like they did, but every time they claw back, then UNC Greensboro would get on a little 6 to 8 point run and get it right back up to double digits. We didn't see. I think there was a lot of frustration. I don't think we saw as much ball movement as we have in previous games, but also, I mean, with shots not falling, your assists are down. But it was tough to watch. But they're going to have rough games, and it's what do they do after that that's going to define them.
Yeah, that's the best thing when it comes to basketball season is you could have a preseason of 4-10 in your non-con, or you could, I mean, we've seen it where they went 13-0 in non-con and end up laying an egg. I mean, that it just happens. It's there's a big difference between November and March, and we know what Arkansas has been able to do lately in March. So I think that's where the cushion comes in. It's not football season where you lose one game in November and your season's over by December. You still have a whole half of the year of where you're just playing conference opponents. So they played the 22nd against Stanford, and then Memphis or Michigan on Thursday, and then Friday if they make it to the end on the finals of that. Then you have Duke coming up Wednesday. So you're going to have really, really truthfully know what type of team you have after these next 4 games, or I should say 3 to 4 games. I don't know if if they make it to the finals of the bad boy battle for Atlantis tournament or whatever they call it. It's the bad boy mowers battle for Atlantis.
Yeah, there's still a loser side to that bracket, so they should play all 3 games or all 3 days. It's just the first 2 games we know who the opponents are going to be. Well, in the second game, it's either or Memphis or Michigan, but your opponents those first 2 games. It's just the third game is all going to be dependent on who wins, who loses. But yeah, these next 4 games are definitely going to show us. It was good to see. Coming into the season and getting that exhibition game with Purdue where we were at. But, it was an exhibition game. We all have seen how those games have turned out for us in the past. Last year's blowout loss to Texas, and then still getting to the Sweet 16. So, when you get into the season is really when it's going to matter. Obviously. So these next couple of weeks are going to be true telling of where we're at.
And you come out of that and you got 5 games before SEC play. So that is another good thing about it. You could put all your energy into this bad boys mower, Duke, and then you've got a 5-game against Furman, Oklahoma, Lipscomb, Abilene Christian, and UNC Wilmington to wrap everything up on December 30th before you start SEC season on January 6th. So there's a little bit of cushion on there. It's not like you're playing Duke and then 2 weeks later, a week later, you're going right into conference season. You play Duke on November 29th, and then you got basically a whole month almost before you play Auburn. Before we wrap up, we will tell you all about the schedule of events that is going on this week in all of Razorback athletics. We're going to start doing this at the very last of the show. As always, basketball plays. That was
last week's. Yep, my fault.
Last week's schedule.
But no, we had volleyball win today.
Yes, volleyball won today. They played on senior night against Florida, 1 in 5 sets. Oh, man. Talk about the crowd. I don't know the exact number that was here, but, man, to send those seniors out on a win like that, and we'll talk about this more on Wednesday on our weekly women's sports report, but they play again on Wednesday, but today was their senior day. But, man, Jill Gillen, Maggie, Taylor, Courtney, I mean, the girls that have come in, Hannah Hogue, from Fort Smith, just very proud. Jason Watson, just what he's done with this team. And, usually when you have a team on the rise, they get really hot, they peak and fall off. But this team has stayed true to where they're at. And someone said Facebook said the crowd was over 3,000. I believe it because the pictures I've seen, it was just amazing seeing that crowd. But what he has done, Coach of the Year. I mean, and I would even push for him to get National Coach of the Year. I mean, they went 5 sets with Wisconsin. Just where this program has been to where they are now. These players, you're going to end up having some All-Americans on this team. I don't know which one will get the nod, but you're going to have an All-American on the volleyball team by the end of the season. really excited to see how they do in postseason this year. But for them to really stay on top, they've only I want to say, let me look at their schedule real quick. They've only lost 2 conference games. I mean, and those were against Kentucky, who they've only lost 1. They're at top right now, and that was in 5 sets at Kentucky, and that was right after they played Tennessee.
Mm.
So then they got swept by Georgia, had a little brain fart, little lapse at Georgia on November 1st. But then now they are on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or no, 4 match win streak, sweeping the first 2 and then 5 sets in the second 2. They got Kentucky in Barnhill on Wednesday, and then they close out the season at Auburn on the 24th. So
We got the right one up now.
Okay. So you got volleyball. That was today against Florida. Basketball against UCA tomorrow night. Basketball, Stanford. But again, we show you that where you can find each game and what time. So again, when we get done with the broadcast, we'll put this up on our Facebook page and pin it at the top. So if you need to know about any sport, what's going on, what channel, where to see it, you'll be able to see it. And then, of course, again, the football game against Mizzou on Friday after Thanksgiving, 3 p.m. on CBS. So, Adam, you got anything else before we wrap things up?
No, it's Thanksgiving week, so
Yes.
it's one of those things. If you're deep frying a turkey, do it away from your house.
And don't put it in frozen. Let it thaw out. So, all right. Well, we'll be back Wednesday with the weekly women's sports report. For again, Adam Hall, I'm Porter Hayes, brought to you by Bet Online and Arkansas Brewing Company. We'll see you on Wednesday.